Okay, very first review of the year, and it's M3GAN, one of my anticipated movies of the year. Been really looking forward to this. It's a science fiction horror comedy written by Akila Cooper and James Wan, who also produces alongside Jason Blum. It's about an artificial doll who develops a self-awareness and becomes hostile to anyone who comes between her and her human companion, a little orphaned girl named Katie. So as I previously said, M3GAN is one of my anticipated movies of the year. It was in my top 10. I've just done the video for that, my top 10 anticipated movies of the year. I will leave a link here somewhere so you can check that out. But yeah, I was really looking forward to this movie. The trailers, I really liked the trailers. It got me hyped for this. It looked bonkers, it looked wacky, but I also liked the idea behind it. This artificial doll being this companion for this little orphaned girl whose parents have died in a car crash, and I was just really interested in how that could play out. Because for me, AI can be quite scary when you really think about it, and you know, you're putting something like AI in a doll, a creepy looking doll, but you've got all the ingredients to create a very fun, entertaining, creepy horror film. You know, I wasn't really expecting anything deeply thought-provoking, and you know, I was just, from what the trailers presented, I was expecting this very fun, silly, entertaining, self-aware movie, which was also creepy and had some really sort of horrific, violent moments in it. And just something that was going to be really fun and entertaining. And obviously you've got AI, artificial intelligence in the mix, which should have really elevated that creepiness. So, yeah. M3GAN. This film, for me, it was a mess. It really didn't know what it wanted to be. That's how I felt after coming out of the cinema, after watching this last night. I did enjoy it. I mean, to a certain level, I had a bit of fun with this movie. There are some fun moments in it. But overall, for me, it was just a mishmash of ideas, and it just didn't quite know what it wanted to be. So I'm gonna start with the one aspect of this movie that really didn't work for me, and that was the humor. Now, for me, the humor, again, just like I just said, you know, this film is all over the place. It's the same for the humor. There is this very dark, satirical humour throughout the movie, which I kind of liked, and I think worked for the film. But there's also this very silly, kind of campy humour as well, which a lot of the time just didn't work for me. It had two different kinds of humour in this movie, and the one humour that I really liked, that I think worked, was the satirical, dark humour, which reminded me a lot of, I'm going to use RoboCop as a comparison, because from the very first scene, it took me right back to RoboCop, in fact. You know, and depending on what you're going for with this type of movie, I mean, if you're going down the route of humour, then yes, it does need to be aware of itself and not take itself too seriously. And you know, for me, there's just times where the humour is just a little bit too camp and silly and just didn't work. But like I just previously said, there are elements of the humour which reminded me a little bit of films like RoboCop, those films from the 80s that didn't take itself too seriously and had that kind of satirical humour to it. There are elements of that in it, but at the same time, this movie was trying to be other things. It was, like I said, I wasn't expecting something really deep and thought-provoking. But it kind of touches on it. It really touches on sort of like this, you know, this attachment that this orphaned girl has with the doll, artificial intelligence. And so that, you know, there are those moments which really get you thinking. And it was like, oh, you know, I like that. But then this is not that type of film. So I appreciated it. But it just sort of left me thinking, what kind of film is this that I'm watching? And that's how I felt through the entire movie, was confusion, really. I mean, I'm watching this film, and yes, I'm entertained to a degree, but I'm just thinking to myself, what am I watching here? And let's talk about the horror aspect of this movie, because for me, it just wasn't really there. Yes, there are some creepy moments, but it's one of the aspects that I was really looking forward to, and it just wasn't really there. You know, you've got these moments throughout the movie, like in the forest. It's in the trailers. You pretty much actually see almost the entire scene, in fact, in the trailers. But it's in the forest where she's grabbing this boy's ear. You've got this other moment, which is in the corridor, and she does this dance before going after this guy at the end of the corridor. And they're all very wacky, silly, over the top. But I just felt like they were pulling back. Like we weren't quite getting the full moment, the full scene, the entire sort of moment, you know, that horrifying, creepy, violent moment that we're getting on the scene where she sort of goes in and makes that kill. I just feel like they were really pulling back. Like, there are moments that were in the trailer that really sold the movie to me. Like, I thought, oh, this is going to be just fucking bonkers. And when you're watching it, like I said, you are entertained to a degree, but I just felt like it didn't have an awful lot of weight and just sort of fell flat. You know, there are horrific moments, but you just could kind of feel this restraint in the background. Like, they just kept pulling back. And I just felt like things could have just been a little bit more bonkers. Just a little bit more crazy. That's what I was kind of wanting. That's how I just felt throughout the entire experience of M3GAN, which was wanting more. I wanted just more gruesomeness, more silliness, more over-the-top violence. We were getting glimpses of it, but that was that. And it just, like, for me, was like, oh, is that it? Performances were okay. Some were very camp, silly, and over the top. And I just, like I said, going back to the humour, just didn't quite work. The standout for me was the little girl who plays Katie. I thought she was actually really, really good. And there is a girl playing the doll who has some crazy moves in this film, but the way she sort of brings this doll to life, I thought was really well done. Very creepy in how she moved, and yeah. So, but other than that, I think the overall performances were just sort of very okay, and it kind of leads me into sort of caring really for these characters. I didn't really care for any of these characters at all, and I think the film wants you to. Again, one of those things that this film attempts, which is to have a heart. And it's just not there. It just didn't work for me, and I didn't really feel anything for these characters. And I think as a result of that, as well as there being very little horror, I felt, and sort of gruesomeness when it comes to the, you know, sort of the doll killing, basically. And then the mix of other things, sort of the mix of all the other ideas which they touch upon, you know, whether it be the girl and her attachment with this doll, and, you know, the commercialism side even of it, and sort of, you know, technology replacing parents and all of that. I really liked all of that, but it just didn't work. It didn't blend. It didn't sort of really meld together and really work. And as a result of this, I think, you know, the film felt a lot longer as well. You know, the film is only just over an hour and a half long. It's about 1 hour 40 minutes, and it actually felt longer. And I don't even think the writing was that great. Yeah, so really, for me, you know, this was one of my anticipated movies of the year. A lot of people have enjoyed it, but for me, it just wasn't what I quite wanted, unfortunately. So it's ended up being one of my first movie of the year to see in the cinema, and it's my first disappointment. It's not devoid of entertainment. There is something to enjoy about this. Like I'm saying, I didn't think this was a terrible movie, but it's also not a great movie. It's a very okay film. I mean, there are parts that I enjoyed, but as I previously said, I just felt like I wanted more. I just wanted more wackiness. I wanted more violence. Yes, if you're going to touch on sort of that sort of deep thought-provoking side of it in terms of the AI and with human, you know, with a child bonding with that AI and all of that, then perhaps the film should have sort of adjusted a certain aspects of it, certain elements of it, like the humor maybe. I don't know. It had a lot of ideas, and those ideas just didn't quite work together as a whole. It was also very predictable. There was this one moment at the beginning of the film where you're introduced to something. I'm not going to give away spoilers, because, I mean, you'll probably guess it straight away if I go into any more details. But you're introduced to a certain item at the beginning of the movie, and I knew straight away that item was going to become useful later on, and we were going to probably see something around that, and it happened. And there were a few moments like that throughout the film where it was like, oh right, I can see what they're going to do. And so yeah, it was very predictable as well. Apparently there's an unrated, a much more violent unrated cut out there. I'm actually looking forward to checking that out if we do get it, because I just felt like this film was pulling back so much. Like it was just trying to be so much, but then just failed. And yeah, it just didn't do anything for me. It really, really didn't. Like, I appreciated the ideas, and I liked what they were trying to do. But as I've kept on rambling on about and kept on saying, all of it just didn't come together for me, and it just didn't work for me. They are my own personal opinions. I know a lot of people are enjoying this movie and are really liking it for what it is, and I wish I was one of those people. And that's how I felt coming out of the cinema last night. I was like, wow, there's so many people enjoying this film, but I'm not quite there. I kind of liked it. It was okay, but that was it. And unfortunately, that's my personal view on it. My personal opinions of M3GAN. As I said, is it a terrible, unwatchable movie? No, it's not. You know, it is entertaining to a degree, but for me, it just wasn't enough of what it was trying to be. It felt very restrained, and it, as a result, had no weight and just fell flat for me. So yeah, they are my thoughts on M3GAN, and I will be giving M3GAN a 5 out of 10. So yeah, they are my thoughts on M3GAN. Please let me know, what did you think? Do you agree or disagree with anything that I said? Please let me know below in the comments, and let's get a discussion going. If you've made it this far into the video, then thanks so much. I really appreciate it. And if you want to see future reviews from me and just general movie talk from a geek in Wales, you know, just ramble on, then please hit that subscribe button. It will mean an awful lot. And yeah, I'll be seeing you guys soon.